When I look up Manila to collect stock footage for this video, this is the kind of shot I'm generally given, an infinite expanse of dense urban development. Like an ecumenopolis from science fiction, the city stretches in all directions, and yet there hardly seems to be enough space. So what exactly is going on? How did 13 million people come to be cramped into an area the size of St. Lucia, and how does this affect those same 13 million people? This video was sponsored by me. This little guy wants nothing more than to tell you about all kinds of random places around the world. With this guy standing by your side, you will learn all about such fascinating places as French Guiana, the Gambia, and that weird triangular border thing in southeastern Bolivia. The effect is amplified if you happen to have one of my videos open in the background. I have partnered with Makeshift to make this little guy a reality, but we need your help. If we sell at least 200 of these plushies within 3 weeks of this video's upload date, then we can make these a reality and ship them out to join you on your next adventure, so you too can uncover the secrets of the world we find ourselves on. Pre-order now and you'll have a great gift for the KhAnubis fans in your life, including yourself. Pre-order later and they'll be gone. We may be hopelessly lost in space, but at least you'll know more about this watery vessel precariously hurtling through the vacuum. So the question remains, will you help this little guy's dreams come true? So this is the Philippines, this is the island of Luzon, and right near the middle is the megacity of Manila. Manila is located at the easternmost part of Manila Bay, an inlet that serves as a massive natural harbor, and sitting right along the Pasig River, connecting Manila Bay with the inland Laguna de Bay. This part of central Luzon has been inhabited for more than 1,000 years, with several small kingdoms hugging the Pasig River. While the city we know today got its start from a settlement known as Manila, probably the most important of these polities at the time was Tondo. The Tondo Rajas took advantage of their position on the trade routes between East and Southeast Asia, building steady relations with the Ming dynasty. However, things would change in the 16th century, when a new power stepped in, converting many in the region to their Abrahamic faith. The Brunei Sultanate began to invade the Philippines under Sultan Bulkiah. No, not that one. Establishing control over much of the west of the archipelago, with much of the ruling class converting to Islam. A half-century after Ferdinand Magellan was killed in the Philippines on his voyage around the world, the Spanish came back to establish a fort in Manila, forming what Manileños today know as Intramuros. Taking a page out of the Reconquista, Miguel López de Legazpi took advantage of a territorial dispute between Tondo and Manila to expel and convert Bruneian Muslims, with the help of local allies, just like they had also done in Mexico. The fortress became their new base of operations, from which the Spanish could expand their control over the archipelago, naming it after Crown Prince Philip II. The Philippines became a Spanish possession under the viceroyalty of New Spain, with Spain now able to take advantage of the archipelago's location and trade connections with China to establish the Manila Galleon trade route, transporting Chinese goods from Manila to Acapulco, in the primary part of New Spain, which was Mexico, because colonial governments just make sense like that. As the city grew in importance, so too did it grow in actuality, expanding from the walls of Intramuros in all directions, but in a much more organic fashion than in other Spanish cities on the other side of the Pacific, where the Spanish colonial grid pattern took precedence. But by the end of the 19th century, Spain's empire was a husk of its former self. Then an American cruiser sank while docked in Havana, newspapers blamed the Main on Spain, the Spanish and the Americans fought the Spanish-American War, and now Spain's empire was even huskier than before, which meant the Americans were now in charge of the Philippines. By this time, Manila had very much outgrown its old boundaries in Intramuros, having now formally incorporated 10 of its neighbors as new districts. After defeating local Republican forces and forcing their leader to pledge allegiance to the US, the insular governments of the Philippines brought in urban planner Daniel Burnham. The so-called Burnham Plan called for everything from the construction of parks to building up a proper public transportation system to a beautification of the city to an improved road system through wide boulevards stretching out in radial patterns, actually kind of like what you see in DC. The area around the old walls of Intramuros was also turned into a golf course around this time, which is actually kind of the most American thing they could have done with it. Much of this redesign also saw the city expand through land reclamation, as can especially be seen around the South Port areas. However, this only accentuates the problem of flooding, as the city is widely considered to be the most vulnerable major city in the world to all kinds of natural disasters. Sitting on mostly flat land upon a river, the city is frequently at risk of floods during the rainy season, or during one of the many typhoons that frequently hit the archipelago, which itself sits right along a major fault line along the Ring of Fire. Oh yeah, and also there are volcanoes here, just for good measure. As the Philippines began to shift from an agricultural to an industrial country throughout the 20th century, Metro Manila's population ballooned from just under 1 million in the 1930s to 6 million in the 80s. This can be explained in part through the fact that big cities tend to have the most jobs, attracting millions from rural areas across the archipelago. And this also extends to higher education, with most of the country's universities clustered in an area of central Manila, often colloquially called the University Belt, or U-Belt. This is something that has only continued to this day, with Metro Manila's megacity status firmly secured with its 13 million people. Technically though, Manila itself is just this area right here, with 1.3 million people, not even the largest in the country. That honor goes to nearby Quezon City. Metro Manila, meanwhile, is a massive urban conglomeration of 16 different cities, altogether holding over 13 million people. In fact, Quezon City was initially created to supplant Manila as the national capital, named after President Manuel Quezon, which it did until 1976 when it was moved back to Manila, with various functions spread throughout the national capital region. That many people resettling to an area the size of St. Lucia, however, no surprise, has put a strain on city services. According to the Filipino members of the KhAnubis Discord server, this can be best seen in transportation and education, with a lack of funding leading to overcrowded classrooms, which would explain the large number of high-end private schools for the wealthy. By some measures, Manila has one of, if not the, worst traffic of any city in the world. As of my current temporal location in 2024, the city has 2 light rail lines and 1 MRT line, with more of the latter slated to open later this decade. However, this is still behind other Southeast Asian megacities like Jakarta and Bangkok, and leagues behind far smaller cities like Kuala Lumpur and Singapore. However, in this case, it's not just the lack of viable alternatives to driving, as buses, rideshares, and jeepneys are common throughout the region, but poor design and poor road law enforcement. Manila can be described as something of an informal city, as much of the city's population is forced to live in slums or even illegally as squatters. This is especially in stark contrast to many newer developments popping up around the metro area, with the clean roads and high-rises of the Bonifacio Global City separated from the lower-class neighborhoods just across the highway. A lot of this can be traced back to 2 factors: poor management and corruption. While the Philippines is far from the most corrupt country in the world, ranking alongside middle-of-the-corruption-packed countries like Turkey, Sri Lanka, and Indonesia, the archipelago is no stranger to the so-called oligarch and clan corruption, as seen most notably in the country's political dynasties. Once again, the Filipino members of the KhAnubis Discord server point out something called the Padrino system. Essentially a system where only those closest to those already in power may be given promotions in public service. Although Article 2, Section 26 of the Constitution explicitly forbids the establishment of political dynasties, the Padrino system is generally considered to have originated under Spanish rule, creating a system based more on returning favors than actual merit. Unlike hundreds of years ago, this is no longer a legal requirement, but more of a pattern that still happens anyway. All this results in embezzlement of government funds, such as Manila's infrastructure, leading to delayed construction projects and worse overall quality infrastructure. So that all felt pretty negative, but I don't want to imply that Manila is some truly terrible place that's never going to get better, because neither of those are true. Ultimately, the story of Manila shows what happens when countries over-centralize. That is, when a country focuses so much and so exclusively on its capital and/or largest city that people from other regions have virtually no choice but to move to said capital faster than the city itself can realistically manage. Manila is a city that has had to, and still has to, urbanize incredibly quickly. But the Philippine economy is growing, both in GDP per capita and the rapidly shrinking number of people living in poverty, and that can be a game changer for the country as a whole, if managed the right way.